A family is accusing a Massachusetts school district of racial bias, and they are calling for reforms after a 9-year-old boy with special needs was handcuffed during a mental health crisis. It happened in the town of Walpole, which is about 25 miles south of Boston. Lawyers say the child, who is black, had a tantrum in his class back in January, and according to the child's individual education plan, he should have received positive reinforcement to help him regulate his behavior. Instead, 3 police officers handcuffed the boy, restrained him, and took him to the adult wing of a hospital where he stayed for hours before being reunited with his mother. Joining me now is author and professor at Teachers College, Columbia University, Dr. Bettina L. Her latest book, Punished for Dreaming, How School Reforms Harm Black Children and How We Heal, is available for pre-order right now. Y'all want to make sure you check that out. Dr. Love, so good to see you. This story broke my heart. Lawyers say that this boy has ADHD, PTSD, learning delays, that he has an individual education plan or an IEP, all the stuff that are markers of a need for supports. Instead of getting support, he was handcuffed.
Yeah. So thank you for having me on, Mark, and thank you for always taking time to talk about these critical issues in education because they can be passed over. But I would want us to understand that so much about this issue is that when it comes to Black children, our first response, second response, third response, and last response is punishment. It's carcerality. It's handcuffing a child. And we have all these conversations in our society about emotional intelligence and social and emotional intelligence, but Black children don't get to have social and emotional intelligence. Our emotions have to be intact. We don't get to be full human beings. And so here we are with another case, and there are so many cases we don't know about. There are so many cases we hear about where Black children are being attacked, being brutalized, being punished, and being incarcerated for being children because they are Black and they are young, and they are in our public schools with no other choices. And so I feel sorry for this family. I feel sorry for this young boy. But we have to let people know that this isn't a one-off. This isn't something that just happens and this is a fluke. This happens on a daily basis in our schools every day, particularly our children who are neurodivergent.
One reason why this stuff seems to happen is because over the last decade or two, we've added so many school resource officers. When I was getting in trouble in school, they just gave me, in Philly, we call them pink slips. You know, I get in trouble, I get a detention. They lock, you know, they send me somewhere. Now they lock you up, they arrest you. And instead of having, you know, teaching assistants or deans, they have school resource officers. Now, in Massachusetts, they don't have to have them anymore. They're no longer required, but many districts still have police officers, uniformed police officers in schools. What does their presence do to encourage these types of situations, if at all?
Well, thank you for that. So we have about 14 million children that go to school every day that has a police officer in their school, but no nurse, no psychologist, no social worker. And police are there to police. They are there to incarcerate people. They're not there to help a child emotionally get through what they're experiencing. They're not there to make sure a child can emotionally understand and help them, you know, emotionally bring down what's happening in their body and regulate their body. They're not there to do that. They're there to incarcerate people. So we have research that says, particularly in Florida, cops arrest more children in schools than they arrest in the community. So we're seeing that when you place cops in the school, they are there to do their job, which means to incarcerate, to arrest, to punish. It doesn't matter the situation. It doesn't matter what's going on. They are there to do that job. And we have now let SROs, police officers in our schools to incarcerate and punish our children. And they are doing that in large numbers. And like you said, when we went to school, you got a ticket, you went to the principal's office, they called your parents. They are missing all of those steps. The parents was called last. The mother was called last in this. Could you imagine being a mother getting a call that your child, your 9-year-old, is in a psychiatric ward for men? How do we miss all of these steps? Where's the teacher? Where's the principal?
And real quick,
Where's the nurse?
Bettina, you said he was in a psychiatric ward for men. That word "man" is important too, because the boy in this case was described as big for his age and stronger than he looks. Before we go, what does that mean?
That's Michael Brown all over again. Right? I think I want to be very clear that we are having this protest around what has happened to Jordan Neely, and we should. But this is the same thing on a very small scale, but it is escalating to that every single day. Where when Black folks have mental crises, where Black folks need support, because we are seeing in the adultification of Black children that we are aggressive, we are mean, we are going to attack you just by simply being human. And that gives people the right to treat us. And so I always go back to Ta-Nehisi Coates, one of my favorite quotes. He says, listen, regardless of policy, if you don't see Black folks as human, it's irrelevant. And so as long as we're not seen as human, as long as anybody can put their hands around our necks and choke us, handcuff us, there is no policy that can address that.
There's no policy that can address it. That is so powerful and so true. And I just want to add, the district at Walpole did say, quote, Walpole schools are committed to the safety and education of all of our students, regardless of race or other protected characteristics. That they have to say that. That's the legal statement. But the question, the details are what matter. And in this case, the structure, the system, and the response we saw raises a lot of questions. We're going to keep following it. Bettina Love, thank you for joining me. Everybody, again, I encourage you to check out her book. It's available for pre-order. Check out all her other books. They're all worth reading if you want to understand the lives and the freedom that's possible for our children in schools if we do the work. All right, family, we have reached the end of the show. But before I let you go, I want to say a word about these young people who are being arrested and handcuffed in schools. These kids who are not being given detentions or even suspensions, but they're getting sent right into the criminal legal system. There's a problem with that. But the problem can be solved through our action. So many of us talk about our schools, but we don't go to parent-teacher night. So many of us talk about the broken systems, which we need to repair fundamentally at the structural level, but we should also be joining the school boards. There are people who are our open enemies, who are organizing, who are strategizing, who are getting elected offices. They are joining school boards. They are changing curriculum, and they don't even have kids in the school. So we have a responsibility to do the same. We have to fight the system. We have to change the structures. We have to reimagine the world. But right now, we got to fight. We got to organize. We got to struggle to make sure that our schools are what they're supposed to be. Because nobody has ever gotten free while their enemies have educated their children.